Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Once again, I am Junior Post, kicking off another new segment. Today, I am going to talk about why this kit is one of the most important kits in my collection. Okay, so rather than do a video where I go through one by one and talk about my kit collection, um, not only do I think that might be a little bit too long, but it'll probably be a little bit boring. I thought it would be a bit more unique and interesting to pick out a kit from my collection that is very near and dear to my heart, something that has a really cool story to tell. Not necessarily because it looks super cool or because like it's a crazy, unique, or rare design, but more so, again, it's about the story that it tells. It's about the journey, how I acquired the kit, what was going on when I got the kit. Like I said, and like I will continue to say, my favorite thing about kits is their ability to evoke an emotion, to bring you back to a moment in time, to stroke that like warm nostalgia and really get you going. So that's, when I look at this guy, that's exactly what it does to me. This kit literally signifies the greatest week of my life. Now I know what you're thinking, Andrew, this is an Alaves kit. If you don't know, I'm a Real Madrid fan. If you do know, you're wondering why an Alaves kit. So let's talk about the kit itself and the aesthetic of the kit. Now, it is a classic Alaves design with the blue and white stripes. You have this really sick Deportivo Alaves badge. Very rare to see something like that. It's also kind of a bummer because they just switched out of this and they updated their crest this season, actually. You have the classic, iconic Hummel piping that's going down, the chevron piping that goes down the sleeves, and of course down the side of the kit. Looks really clean on this. You have the seamless sponsorship, the sponsorship across the chest, which just looks perfect. It looks like it's part of the design. You have some really cool details on the back with the Basque flag. Obviously, Alaves is from the Basque region of Spain. Then you have, of course, the Copa del Rey patch right here on the arm, and then you have the commemorative screen print right here that commemorates the match. It says FC Barcelona, Deportivo Alaves, Estadio Vicente Calderón, 27 de Mayo de 2017. Shows basically the date and the place of the match and when it happened. Super cool, really good looking kit. How does that come into play with my love for Real Madrid or anything? Well, you kind of have to go back to 2017 and what I was doing at the time, what was happening at the time. So in 2017, I was a podcast host, on-camera personality, writer, editor, kind of just this overall creative being working for Kicks to the Pitch. If you guys are not familiar with Kicks to the Pitch, they are a creative agency and a media outlet that blends soccer with sneaker culture, streetwear, hip hop. They blend those two worlds together. Now, at the time, we were gaining a lot of momentum, so much so that we started to get invited to big media events all around the world, specifically media events that had to do with kit launches or boot launches. More so the boot launches. Those were a big thing. Boot launches meaning cleat launches if you're American. But so with boot launches, what would happen is like you would get invited to a specific area. Like I ended up going to London earlier that year for the launch of the Puma Vigor 1. Got to do this cool event with Olivier Giroud and Peter Cech, which was amazing. Another guy from my team ended up going to France for a New Balance thing. Another guy went to Madrid. Another guy went to Barcelona, and so on and so forth. There was all these events happening all over the world for boot launches and things like that. So just to kind of give you an idea, this is going to make sense a little bit later, but to preface the boot launch, it'll all tie together a little bit later. Now, at this specific moment in time, it was a few weeks before the 2017 Champions League final between Real Madrid and Juventus. Knowing, if you guys know me, again, I'm going to talk about it all the time, probably annoyingly, but I'm a big Madrid fan. They are the reason I fell in love with soccer as a child. I still love them to this day, and I'm a big fan. So when I found out this was, obviously the final had been announced, I was doing everything in my power to try to get to Cardiff where it was happening. I wanted to go to the game. It had long been a dream of mine to go to a Champions League final, but more so to go to a final that Madrid was playing in. So I started to look up plane tickets, look up Airbnbs, look up tickets to the match. Absolute insanity. Financially, from a straightforward financial perspective, wasn't going to happen. Then I started to exhaust my quote unquote soccer connections. I know I sound like a huge douche saying that, but I did my best to exhaust those connections, and those were exhausted very quickly, let me tell you. So it didn't seem like it was a possibility that I was going to go. Now, leading up to the final, we got two very important emails from two very important brands. The first one was from Adidas. They were inviting us to London for a massive launch event. They were launching at the time, it was a completely redesigned Messi boot, the Nemesis. They were going to invite media from all over the world. It was, I think, well over 100 people that were invited to this warehouse in London for a 2-day media event for the launch. And it was leading up to the week of the Champions League final. I think it was a couple of days, the week of the final for sure. I don't remember specifically if it was on Wednesday or Thursday, but leading up to the final, basically, right? So when I got this, when I started to hear about this, it was kind of being talked about within the company. I was like, man, I really hope I get chosen to go to this. But at the time, Adidas was already working very closely with someone within our company, so they invited her to go out. So she was going to be the representative going out. Naturally, I was a little bit bummed because I wanted to go to the event, but more so it was a possibility for me to be there, network, and then I was already within striking distance of Cardiff at that point. Maybe I could at least get a train ticket and go there and walk around with a sign and try to buy a ticket at the day of the match and so on and so forth. So that was kind of my mindset, and it didn't end up working out. So I was a little bit bummed. I was kind of sad. But then maybe a day or two later, I get a call from my boss at Kicks the Pitch, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to go to Madrid? Hummel wants to fly you out to Madrid for the Copa del Rey final. Alaves is going to be playing Barcelona at the Vicente Calderón. It's going to be the last match at the Calderón." And I was just like, yes. Without even thinking about like going to the Champions League or without even thinking of Cardiff at all, I just obviously said yes. How could I not go to that? It just sounded so cool, so amazing. Madrid is one of my favorite cities, and while I'm not a supporter of Barcelona or Alaves, it was still going to be an incredible chance to witness a historic match at an iconic stadium. So said yes without even thinking. As I started to get ready, started to like pack my bags, get my camera ready and all that stuff, I started to hit me. I was like, hey man, Madrid, it's not far from London. It's probably a very cheap flight. If you're familiar with Ryanair, super duper sketchy, but very super affordable to get from Madrid to London. So that was like a thing that started to kind of like build in my head as all this was happening. So I ended up landing in Madrid the night before the match. I was the only person from the group of media they invited. It was a pretty small group, maybe like 10 people from media. There was a couple people there from Asia, from locally in Madrid, the UK, and then I was the only one that was from the States, but I arrived the night before. So got to Madrid, went to the hotel. This was waiting for me, which was such a amazing, cool thing to experience. It was the first time I had really experienced something like that. So just a really cool moment to have that waiting for you on the bed. Dropped all my stuff off, instantly washed up very quickly, and then I went straight to Tapas Bar. Got some jamon and I got some beer and had a kind of like, whenever I go to a place, I try to get some local food as much as possible. And then after I did that, it kind of just got me in a really good mindset. And then I went directly to where all the bars were, saw some Alaves fans, partied with those boys. They were super cool. Hung out with them for a while and then got home. Woke up the next morning, saw all of the media in the lobby. We all met up together, put on our Alaves kits, and we marched to this. We were on our way to the stadium. But before we went to the stadium, we went to this really beautiful outdoor market. Oh, I forgot to preface, before that in the lobby, one of the people that was going to be along with us was Michael Timms, he's worked with Copa 90. He now does his own channel. You might be familiar with him. I'll link him down below. But we made friends while he was in LA the year before. He was in LA for Coachella and with Coconut doing some cool stuff. So we made friends. So when I saw him in the lobby, it was like, oh, I have a homie here. This is going to be cool. You obviously it's nice to see a familiar face when you're along on these types of things. So really cool to have that. So we go, we eat, and it's funny because we're all walking through the streets of Madrid. There's about 15 of us walking through the streets of Madrid, and we're wearing Alaves kits. People are wishing us good luck for the game. People are saying Aupa Alaves, which I learned later. Aupa is there, like if you support Madrid, it's Ala Madrid, or if you support Barca, it's Visca Barca. So they're like Visca, or they're Ala, it's Aupa. So I kept hearing that. I didn't know what it meant. And it was just so funny because none of us were like Alaves supporters, but we were there with Hummel, and everyone was wishing us good luck. They were so anti-Barcelona in Madrid that everyone was wishing us good luck, and it was just so funny. So we start going to, after lunch, we go to the stadium, and it's a bit of a walk from the subway stop to the Calderon. So as you're walking, there's a march happening, a literal flood, and it's all Blaugrana. It's all burgundy and blue, or red and blue, whatever you want to call Barcelona's colors. But it's thousands upon thousands of fans marching. And I took a bunch of pictures, so I'm going to be putting these pictures up in the corner so you can kind of catch the vibes of what I'm talking about. But so as we start marching, I start taking more and more. As we start walking, I start taking more and more pictures. The march that the Barcelona fans, it's just overwhelming. It's so many people. It's just a sea of people. It's hard to describe. The noise is incredible. If you're familiar with soccer chants and soccer culture, you completely understand what I mean. So we get to this little corner area that's right in front of the stadium. There's a bar there set up for us. We're drinking, and you can kind of go inside there. There's like TV and other games going on inside, and then outside is the madness, the chaos. So I have my camera out. I'm taking pictures, and I'm kind of just caught up in the moment. I'm not even realizing what's happening. I kind of look to the corner, and I realize that, like, hey, I'm kind of like 50, maybe more yards away from the crew. They were really like posted up on the corner just drinking beers. And I'm just taking pictures of all these Barcelona fans. I got some really cool pictures. But me not realizing, I'm essentially in this circle of Barcelona supporters. And to my kind of like being naive, I'm getting like, I kind of got some weird looks from the crew we were with, like, what is he doing there? And then I finally, like, one of their supporters tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, hey bud, are you lost? Kind of situation. He said that to me, and I just kind of like looked at him, and he like points to my jersey. And I looked down, I was like, oh, like, kind of had this moment of like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? And I just told him, I was like, look, man, I'm with Hummel. We're shooting the match, and he just kind of gives me a hug. He's like, no, it's all cool as long as you keep it respectful. We're cool with you guys. And I was like, yeah, dude, like, no problems. I'm gonna keep it respectful and like get out of here, basically. So I got my pictures and I left, and just a funny little experience because I was so caught up in the moment I completely forgot about what it was. Thankfully, I wasn't wearing a Madrid kit. I'm sure it would have been way worse if that was the case. So we went. I meet up with the guys, we start drinking, start having beers. We end up going to the stadium, right? So we finally get into the stadium, and wow, man. The Calderon was such an iconic stadium. I took a couple photos, as you can see here. Iconic, very well known for that overpass tunnel that they have. They have traffic literally driving underneath their stadium. Such a weird and cool, iconic, unique design. And the Calderon was one of those classic old stadiums that these stadiums, when you go to like Old Trafford, or even when you go to the Bernabeu or places like this, these places have an energy to them. Even when you see them, like when people talk about like those Champions League nights and things like that, when you watch them on TV or when you're there in person, the lights have a certain vibe, or a certain, almost like you're looking at it through a special filter. There's an entire energy to these places that is sort of indescribable. There's like a mist, and there's a whole, like, it's part of the entire theater of being there. And the Calderon had that. The Calderon was like, I mean, it very much on its last legs, cracks everywhere, water leaking, completely on its last legs. But it was like it had absorbed all the energy of this over the years of just countless, games and energy and chanting. And it was just beautiful and such an honor to be there. So just, again, an incredible experience. I get emotional thinking about it. I get goosebumps thinking about it because it was just so cool. Now, as for the match itself, it was cool for me for a lot of reasons. First, on Alaves, there was a couple of up and coming Real Madrid products. Theo Hernandez, who actually scored a really beautiful free kick in that game, and then Llorente, who has a lot of family ties to the club, and now he plays for Atletico Madrid. He is actually the guy that scored to knock Liverpool out of the Champions League final, or to knock Liverpool out of the Champions League this past season. And then there was Barcelona, and it was the Barcelona of Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, of course, and Neymar. It was that Barcelona. So, of course, as I mentioned over and over, I'm not a Barcelona fan, but I'm a fan of the beautiful game. And those players are some of the greatest players of our generation, and you just have to tip your hat off to them. And in that game, it was Messi being Messi. He completely took Barcelona on his back and just did his thing. He was playing on a whole nother level, and it's one of those things that, like, you see a player like him on the TV and you see all the angles and all the replays and stuff, and you think, you know, how can he do that? How does he do that stuff? But when you see it in person, it's just, I mean, I still can't even talk about it because it's just so unreal, you know. And this is coming from a Madrid fan. This is coming from someone who has looked at Messi as just like the most painful guy, the guy that's caused me the most pain as a fan of soccer in my life. But seeing him live was just unbelievable. Obviously, that's a once in a lifetime, once in a generation type of situation. So overall, it was just a beautiful experience. We went back after the match. Barcelona ended up winning. We went back after the match and hung out. You know, as you do in Madrid, you stay up super late. Got back to the hotel around 6 a.m. and then the next day, ended up figuring out how to get to London. So that's where I'm going to end this part, but I'm going to continue to talk about a new kit that I got along the way during this trip and during this week. And then I'm going to finish off how the week went for me, how I ended up getting to the Champions League final, going to the Nemesis boot launch, and kind of everything that went on in between while I was in London. And just tell that story in part 2. But for now, thank you guys so much for paying attention. Thank you so much for listening. I know it was long, but I thought it'd be cool to kind of share a cool little story as to why this kid means so much to me. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.